Bom dia a todo mundo aqui. I'll speak in English, okay? So se vocês precisarem, tem tradutor. Okay, so we'll talk today about some funding strategies, because most people think they can only fund. Sorry about this. They're entitled to publishing, but we can also fund it through VC funding. So the goal here is to talk with them, see how they're funding. To see how they're funding their studios, and share what they can do for our Brazilian studios, because here we are mostly indie guys, and sometimes you don't even know that you could have access to a capital funding. So I'll start first with for them to do a quick intro about themselves, and then we can go to some other topics, and you can ask questions in the last 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, so Olga.
Hi everyone. My name is Olga. I live in Moscow, and I started my career in the game industry 4 years ago. Now I work at super.com. I'm a senior business development manager, and before that, before I moved to super.com, I did some biz dev for one of the biggest publisher in CIS. And now, what about Super? So Super is a mix of talented and well-experienced people who, like marketers, investors, of course, programmers, developers, business guys, who just team up and establish this company. And this company has two different independent divisions. One of them is an investment fund, and another one is a publisher. We invest in studios, we invest in projects, we publish also games globally. So, yeah, that's all about us.
Okay, good. Okay.
Hello, hi, I'm LK Shelley from Financiamento. So I'm the managing partner running a fund investing in early stage venture startups in the Bay Area and also overseas. And for about 4 years, we started investing in the gaming industry, looking at, for example, the mobile game studios as part of a thesis in the tech sector. Of course, we do focus in the digital media and entertainment space, so we do understand there's like a lot of different ups and downs in the gaming industry. However, we try to figure out a model where we can shadow a similar hockey stick curve, similar to the venture, what we discussed about, like for example, is Facebook, Pinterest, and the bigger companies, right? So it's harder to do so. So we are evolving our model to be a bit more thematic. So we started looking at potentially investing not just equity or studios, but also in projects. And so my background has always been the intersection of tech, media, and venture. So I come from more like a product background at first, and then moving more into the finance background. So I guess examples of more like successful ones that I invested in Pinterest, and I got involved in the Viber transactions and a lot of e-commerce, and then I found a couple of companies and exited. So I have some experience from different sides of the table, right? Raising money and investing monies, and then also building. And then the key part for us is really how to help developers, right, the creators, to make successful products like games or whichever sort of like ventures you're in. We're not looking at purely just like sitting back and then investing. So, however, in terms of games, it's so tricky. We can share a little more experience with you, and we do have been working with developers in Brazil. So, but this is my first time in here physically, so I'm pretty excited about meeting a lot more companies and developers this time. Thank you.
Hi everyone. I'd really like to see you all here today. My name is Alish. I'm from Moderador Games Ventures. We're a venture fund, and basically we're game developers first. So I have a 15 years experience in games, more mobile games. So then we become a venture fund because, well, our games are a success, and we want to share with other developers our knowledge and how we do this, and find like right guys that want to do great games with us, to get to our team, to work with us, and to get successful projects further for them too. So, the other guys, we're doing investments, but money is something that you can take from whatever you want, like from banks, from other venture funds, etc. What we offer with the money is a lot of expertise in games, in mobile games, in game design, in monetization, etc. Some people from this conference call it an accelerator. Maybe it's a good term, I don't know. But nevertheless, we want this expertise to build inside the developer, not to just like give them resources and etc. So we have knowledge. We're like very experienced in games, and we have money. So I think this is all that you need to know now.
Cool. So, how is the process for a pitching? It's all online, or because some of the people here, they might see that it might be hard for them to pitch the project, or in this case to pitch the company. So how's the process on your side? How long does it take? So should somebody here that has maybe just one game, when is the right time to start pitching and to think about finding funding for your company?
Oh God. Just send me a message on Facebook. It's enough just to say hi, at least. But there are, I'm okay, serious. There are a lot of ways how to apply for investment. For example, on our website there is a form, you can fill it, and you can put all the information there, all the bills, all the documents, etc., etc. You can meet our team on conferences. Sometimes, actually, there are some agencies who game agencies who help developers to reach out to the VCs and investors. You can go to them and ask for their help. For example, about the process, so evaluation process. So what investor is looking for when they look at developers and developers what they want to get from the developer. First of all, they want to see their understanding on their face what they're doing. And second, they want developer to be prepared to pitch the game and to have all the documents, business plan, and at least playable demo. I mean, I guess there are some venture funds or investors who are ready to invest in prototype without any playable builds. But most of the VCs wants to see and test the product that they invest in. I guess that's enough.
Okay, so in your case, the company has to at least have this minimum viable gain, let's say. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Is it the same for you?
So for us, obviously, we want the developers understand we are investing in something that could be very risky, right? So we don't want anything just on paper, napkin or something like that. We want you guys to go through the process of developing a prototype, understanding exactly what you are trying to achieve, right? So that you take your own first step, and then of course then you'll go through the whole process of analyzing the market, analyzing your gameplay, analyzing a lot of different aspects. So I'm kind of a technical, like analytical person, if you will, right? So I started out putting together some systematic approach, right? I asked my team to put together a scorecard, everything on this spreadsheet. We used to evaluate hundreds and hundreds of games. Like we have someone who is a gamer. We have him to just sit down at home and play games, like I don't know how many per day, and then analyze different aspects, right? Especially for the free to play, there's a lot of things that we have to evaluate. But eventually, what really comes down to, especially in venture, early stage investment, this is a people business. So it's really about that chemistry first. If you come to pitch to us, don't send me a LinkedIn, message. Most of the time, it's not me trying to ignore you. It's just that I never really check it, right? So, really go, have a presence. Try to put it in a more personal approach, right? Of course, sometimes it's a bit too much of work, too expensive to go travel to events and all. But for us, I also make my time to come down here just because I think the face-to-face is still very important. Yesterday was very funny. I was having this meeting, supposed to be in the meeting area, and then the guy sat me down and said, "Put on your headset. The person you're meeting is on the Skype." I was okay, what? He's based in San Francisco, so I was thinking I could have just beat him in San Francisco without doing this Twitch streamer sort of style of putting a headset and then talk to him on Skype, right? Which is very efficient, right? Still, we love it. We would do that all the time. After the first meeting, we do that. And so, to answer your question, right, really, I think there's definitely various sort of very systematic way to look at it, but it comes down to your passion, right? If you're really passionate enough, you know what you're doing. You don't kind of think about you want to be a dreamer, right? But at the same time, you have to be pragmatic. So you really have to go through the hard work and then think about what exactly you can achieve. And then, in the near term, in the long term, and then come up with some numbers, right? Okay, I'm going to sell 10,000 pieces, or I'm going to sell, make 10,000 US dollars revenue by X months. I think that gives us the idea that you're making some assumptions at the same time, making some, putting in some thought into it, rather than us going back to, crunch the number and say, okay, no, this is not really the case, right? If it's telling me that this is going to be $1 billion by, 3 months, then I would say yes, it's a pretty interesting, but not going to happen, in our case, right? So just make sure you are building something, assuming you don't have any funding. You have to hustle, you have to do what you can, and then approach someone you think could be your partner to help you to work together. Because at the end of the day, you might be doing your games and all longer, 24 hours a day, more than you meet your wife or your family. So this is your life. So it's important to think about that.
I actually agree with the guys that this is a people business, right? So we're game developers ourselves. So there is boring stuff like the models and etc. That you have to usually show the venture fund. But really, the gaming industry is very moving fast. Even the developer that came with a pitch with one project, And this project, from our opinion, may be not the best one that you should move on. But if we see that the people that came to the project, they know what they do, they understand and want to do great games, then we can help them to just modify their ideas, to check it with the audience, to get all the risks done before we even start working. So this is something that we usually ask from the developer. You should be knowing that you're doing a game and you should be doing it good. All of the other stuff like monetization models, like core loops, etc., we can show, we can teach. This is something just like technical stuff. Well, most of the times, of course, depending on the game, but still. But like the passion is the first thing that we keep an eye on, right? So actually, we have studios that we have invested even on the idea stage. Of course, you should be you should express why we should do this, and if we buy it, then we would definitely go with you. But once again, if you have prototype, you have better chances. If you have in soft launch, you have better chances. It's better if you have KPIs and etc. If you know how to do this. We actually have a lot of companies, studios back in Russia and in Europe that want to work with us. So yeah, we have a lot of developers asking for help. So you should stand out somehow in order we would start working with you. But otherwise, if you have an idea, if you have a team, if you know how to deliver games, you can start working. All of the boring stuff is done, well, probably mostly on our side. We have investment managers that do all that. We have with the legal structure, with all of that. So game is the most important, and the team that makes this game is the most important for us, because other stuff is something that we can figure out, either by money or by our knowledge.
Okay. And about the kind of game that you or companies that you're looking for, like it's only a free-to-play games, or a premium is also fine from a VC perspective, because premium doesn't scale like so well. So like as you probably are seeing here in Brazil, there's a lot of companies still doing PC as premium game. So should they is there any a chance for them, or should we just forget about it and go in the free-to-play route?
It's a tough question. It depends on what kind of a premium game you have, because if it's a AAA production PC console, then this is definitely something interesting for us, just because, well, we're a big company. We've made like $400 million last year. We're on stock exchange, so these numbers are open. So if you're going with an indie premium game, it's really tough to reach the numbers that we're interested in. So this is something that we're not considering. But with a mobile free-to-play or PC console free-to-play, this is something that we would love to see more. Just because it's a lot easier to scale these projects, it's a lot easier to get there are a lot of instruments that we can use in order to check the game on an earlier stage, and etc. But with small indie companies, that would be tough to work with us. So.
Actually, I would like to add that we recently announced globally that we are looking for the AAA production quality game. So if you go to our site, buy.games, very simple, you'll find an article so that buy games to find is creating new studio for AAA shooter. So in case your studio which produces AAA shooter, will take all the operational, all the legal stuff, all the boring legends on my side, then it's all this boring stuff, and your side is just to focus on the product, just to make great product.
This nice guy is our investment manager. He does all the boring stuff. So yeah, thanks Sergey.
Thanks again.
Yeah, I can tell you something from my perspective. So at super.com, we have not a usual model. So super.com is a fund and also is a publisher. and a publisher with a huge expertise in really different types of the projects. So we used to work with premium titles, We have guys on our team who used to work with console games and mobile games, and we don't split it. We don't. For us, it doesn't matter what type of a game you have. We know how to do business, how to publish the games, for example, and we know the basic mechanics, how it should work, and we could invest in premium free-to-play titles as well. So yeah, for us it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so in general, we prefer free to play, and that's the reason why we've been more active in mobile in general. But then now we are also interested in Switch titles, so actually it could be a multi-platform strategy where you can start with mobile first, but then if you can cut the special edition and then put it to the Switch and such, and make it more like a premium version, then that's something we would consider. I think that's something very smart move. And but yeah, if you have crazy production, big IPs and all, and then you can make something that really like a premium production and title, possibly, but then the cost structure is just completely different, right? I don't know how much it would take you to finish that premium play. So we generally prefer the free to play, and so yeah.
I would like to add something about free-to-play titles. For us, it's really easy. It's really easy to get access to Chinese market and Asian market. We have a lot of partners there. We have a huge network in China, and that's why we are not afraid of free-to-play titles. And because in Asian market, premium titles are so it's like
Okay. On the topic, how long does it take for the whole process? Like when you start talking, then there's a lot of legal stuff, moral stuff, and understanding. So people, because maybe at the studio, when they start to think, okay, I should get funding from a company, it might be too late, because if they have to sit down for 6 months or 12 months, it might run out of cash for the company. So how long does the process take? And also, if you have done any investment here in Brazil, if you can share some details.
So it depends on the game. It depends on the situation, and it could take 2 months and up to half a year. If we see any important reasons why we have to pay attention on this title and why we need to give them money right now, I mean, maybe they will run out of the budget, or they don't have any investment right now, but they need them. But they need this money to continue develop the game. In this case, of course, we will try to help them, and we will try to make our best to give them investment if we like their game, of course, as soon as possible. And when the best time to come to investor, I don't know. It's up to you. Yeah, we have some cases. In Brazil, we announce the project that we work on right now, that is under our wing. Guys from Brazil, they just applied for our investment through the form on our website. Right in time, got the investment. Now we work with each other. I hope they are happy.
So for us, again, we started to be super analytical, put together process, timeline, everything is structured. And turns out, it doesn't always happen that way, right? Because it's our timeline, but they also studios themselves, they have the timeline and all, right? Sometimes the stuff is not ready and such, right? So in our experience, kind of pretty extreme. I met one studio like 2 years ago at Gamescom, and then we started talking briefly on Skype, and then we met at Gamescom, and then I kind of briefly told him some ideas and what I was kind of looking for, and then he put together a prototype. Within a day, it was so fast, and then it's almost so real that I thought it was playable, but it's not playable. But it was so fast that I thought he really can do a really good job on that, and that process was super fast for us. We signed him on within, after the talk, of course, going through the paperwork, but it's still within months, a couple of months. But we did make the decision really fast. And then on the other hand, we met a company that, by chance, I was at TechCrunch, San Francisco, 2015 something, right? Very, very little chance you would meet a game studios there. But turns out I met actually one from Brazil. And we started talking, we kept talking, but we didn't actually do anything. Just mutually, not just because of us. And then finally last year we started to work together on different capacity. So that just gives you a spectrum, right? It's all about making the connection, and then one day if you need them, or you vice versa, I think then a deal can happen. So don't wait till last minute when your bank account becomes zero or negative, then you go chase a VC. They're not going to give you a loan, right? So they're not going to give you anything to just pay off your bill. That's not the model. It's not like you're bad, right? But if you need something super urgent or something that to help for something else, then there's other channels, right? We are really looking for something that for long term. So you want to build out that connections first, and then somehow things kind of evolve from there. But do look the process of for us. Again, we started posting some application form here and there, but at the end, most of my decision really coming from me making the people in person, or having that dialogue where I found the studios or the founders would have the potential to, and also the commitment to make it. So yeah, it's less of a job application per se.
It's different from studio to studio. Actually, it actually depends on how the studio is structured, because this is the most long part in financing. Actually, we're game developers once again, ourselves. So we understand that moment when you ran out of money because you were thinking about the game and you were thinking that you're going to do it by yourself, and then you just get to zero account balance, and you need money, right?
And you need to eat.
Yeah, and you need to eat, and you need money right now. So our shortest signing with the company was something like 2 weeks. So we do like to work fast, and we like to help developers to understand these problems that you face from day to day. But yeah, I would say that you should be having a 6 months gap before starting talking to VCs, because just in case if you do not need money right now, it's a good idea just to talk to them, to know them, in case they'll be seeing the traction of your project, how do you go, they would be more not friendly. They would be more eager to invest in your company just because they know you, not just like 12 hours or something, because they know you for half a year and they have seen what you were doing. They would see your speed of production value, all of that stuff. So this is a good idea to start talking to them at least 6 months before. But even if you just ran out of money, you still will be able to find a partner on the market. So this doesn't mean that you should close your studio or do something like this.
And try to knock every door. I mean, there are government funds. There are like, I don't know, Unreal grant if you work with Unreal.
I just want to add, right? Like, if you are running out of money and then you start thinking about getting money externally, it's late for obvious reasons, but also it also tells that you're not thinking ahead of time, right? I mean, this is a business. It's not like, okay, I'm going to go on a backpacking trip and then, just get a ticket and go on a train, right? So you kind of need to have that mentality to prepare, and then also at the same time, don't go to the far extreme where you think, okay, your game is going to be amazing. I'm going to, mortgage my house, and I think to a certain extent you have to building a business is also about like risk management. You want to know exactly how much you can get and how much you can afford to do, and don't stretch yourself too much, and then to the level where you kind of have to the point of no return, and that doesn't show that you're actually better than others. Right? It just makes it a bit more higher risk than others. So that's the reason why I think preparing in advance is part of the business practice anyway.
Okay, and how many shares or how much equity do you typically get? Like it's 10% or 51%? Because some students they say, well, I want to sell like half of my company now because they have plans. So how does it work? About the equity that you take? Yeah.
When we start working, we would ask for just one share to be able to see all the financials, to be able to have all the legal stuff in place. But we're actually, once again, we want the developer, if he is a success, to work with us as a group of companies. So we would ask for 51% as a strategic partner, and we would pay cash out, so the developers would get a lot of money at that point. This is why we share all of our knowledge. We're not like a usual fund that would seek for an exit. And for example, if you give them 25%, this 25% in 5 to 7 years would go for someone else, just because the fund needs to exit. We do not need to exit. We're a strategic fund, so we will buy out 51% in cash, and we'll try to work with you in like 5 to 10 years, 15 years. The more the better. So this is a bit different with us, but still on an early stage, we're okay to working with other guys on board, other venture funds, just because they could. It's once again risk management. So if we can join our ventures for example, one team, then it would be an exit strategy for the fund in future. So it would be easier for them, it would be easier for the developer to know who are you going to work with in 5 to 7 years when the VC fund is going to exit. So this is what's different with us. So I think I answered the question.
Maybe sometimes I get this misperception from developers thinking that they might watch too much TV, that we're kind of like a shark or something, that we want to take over your business and take over your soul or something like that. To be honest, it's actually the opposite. We're generally a bit more lazy, right? So we don't want to take over your business because there's a lot more work to take over. We're not developers, even if you take your games, and by all means I cannot do anything about it, right? So generally we try to be like hands-off to a certain extent. meaning that you drive your business, you drive your creative decision and a lot of it. And we do add strategic resources and advice and all, and then maybe making connection, especially pitching to publisher. If we are there, usually you can get a high chance to sign something like that, right? And we prefer not to have more than like 30% or something, depends on the scenario. But sometimes we do notice, we do observe that comparing to regular ventures, like those in Bay Area, for example, game developers tend to be more specialists, so they really are good at one or two or maybe 3 things, but not 10 things or 20 things. Right? So they're good at maybe developer programming, or they might be good at art, or maybe good at something, right? And they tend to ignore the rest of it, right? Like they would dream that maybe publisher will come on board, then the rest will be taken care of. You don't have to do your marketing anymore because my publisher will take care of it. The fact is actually true, right? So that's kind of the false sort of reality of it. And then if we, my experience, we've been investing in games and then we're trying to be more hands-off, just like any other investment in ventures. But from time to time, we do think that, okay, we might have to step up a little bit and give a little bit more helping hands, so then possibly actually it's more helpful and advantage for them, because they cannot, literally handle all the stuff aside from maybe game design, artwork, or programming. And because of that, then we will have to take up a bit more shares, just because then we will be able to have more liberty to make decisions and all. But it's not by design, it's case by case. The regular model is just to be minority investors, and then, but if sometimes, especially in the area, like for example, certain games that we know enough how to actually drive it, and then we'll try to rescue it, and it's mutually beneficial that we'll pick up a lot more shares just to let it not die. That's the key part.
Yeah, sure. Same for us. We take the IP, we don't take your IP, we don't take operation stuff. We are not interested in that. It's like a relationship between father and son. You have to think twice before you decide to have children, right? So but once you have children, you will support them with advice, with any help. You will help them to grow, right? So it's long-term relationship. And it's hard to say what is the amount of shares we buy. It is case by case. We don't buy one share usually. We take some shares, and then we also would like to have a call option and buy out your shares up to at least 51%. Yeah.
Just in case there is a misunderstanding, we're also lazy for this stuff. So we do not want operational control. The 51% is only for financial consolidation. So we're a public company traded in London Stock Exchange. So 51% allows us to show your financial results to the stock exchange. But we know that it's like expertise is different for different genres, and we're not going to tell you what to do. This is your call. This is the founder's call. The CEOs. This is why they're CEOs, right? And this is why they have game designers to design new games. Because if there would be just one guy designing all the games. We have like 20 companies in portfolio. This would be a nightmare to manage this. So the idea behind is that we have an accelerator. If you have questions, if you need help, we help. But if you do not need anything, we're not going to interfere. So it's your business.
Questions, anyone? Perguntas? Pode ter em português, né? Se não quiser perguntar, eu traduzo.
Hi, my name is Marcelo. Just to give you some context for the question, I run a games accelerator here in Brazil. So my job is to connect investors and developers. And I think that there is a topic that is not raised that much, that the developer should choose the investor. Not only the investors should choose the developers. So I want to change parts here. So why a developer should seek funding for a venture capitalist, and specifically why you are a venture capitalist?
Alright, good question. Actually, usually I tell developers not to seek money from anyone of us. Right? Because at the end of the day, it's their business, right? If they don't need it, they don't, right? It's like if you can buy a house with cash, you might go get a mortgage, right? So, but fundamentally, that's the part of the thing, right? I think building a new venture is pretty risky for both sides, right? So if you can find a partner to share risk and also, of course, share success in the future, that is the scalable model, right? Because if you put all your money into one basket, a lot of time you might lose. So that's why you do diversity, right? So you do as a founder, of course. Then again, you put a lot of your sweat into one venture, one game, one studio yourself at first. But then if you can find a co-founder, right, who usually co-founder will take shares as well, right, but not putting money. So some put in money, some put in effort, some put in skills, right? So investor at the end of the day, and publisher and all the other ones are all kind of partners in that ecosystem to make a venture successful. You cannot be one man in an island. You cannot be successful. So that is part of the business mindset that where you want to think about what Of course, there are some outliners, right, who can build one game by himself in a basement and then suddenly becomes a overnight success. That doesn't happen all the time. So you just want to be pragmatic about building that business ecosystem for yourself to have that support, right? The platform to help you. A lot of time, we obviously bring in big money, but the reason why we have money in the first place is not because we are rich, we're not because born out of a royal family, because we have been in the business for a long time that we can actually get the trust from other investors to invest in us and that we have money, right? Or there are different reasons why we also have the resources. So you want to tap into that resources, not purely thinking about who has shares or not. It's about thinking about how to build a solid, scalable business out of this venture model.
The short answer for this would be it saves you time. We're not going to live infinitely. You have only a short period of time when you can get a success or something. Of course, you can choose a path where you do the game by yourself, one man army, but it just takes a lot of time. If you have a team that helps you, it will be much faster. The same with investor. So on the different stages, for example, at the beginning when you're just starting, you may want to get an investor just because you need it. The further when you move on, if you have passed this and you're a middle-sized company and your operational is stable, right? You have money to feed your company and etc. Investor can help you scale your company, do not one game, but 2 games, 3 games, etc. If you're a big company, you're doing, let's say, $500,000 per month, it's also a good idea to work with an investor. For example, if you have more ambitious, if you want to go higher, if you want to get more people, if you want to do more games, etc. So this is the stuff that you could do by yourself. It will just take a lot of time. So it's sometimes better to fail fast than to just do the stuff like for 10 years, 15 years, etc. Because, well, you don't have a lot of time for this.
Don't ask
Well, it's okay. It's okay. Just do a lot of prototypes, you check. We can discuss it later.
I can add something. You're absolutely right. And developers can go to many VCs, investors. Same for us. We can choose any studio that we want to choose. It's a win-win game, there are too many venture funds, game venture funds in this market right now. Day by day, they're just keep appearing, and you just need to choose the right one that is the best fit for you, a good match. We say that it's all about chemistry and the relationship between the investor and developer, and of course conditions. And different investors, different venture funds, they have different conditions. So just choose the best fit for you.
There is another way, like if you don't want to go to the venture fund, there is a publisher that usually does like some kind of money upfront for you to go for the developer. But if you're doing premium, it's absolutely fine to go with a publisher because it's like fire and forget, and either it goes and reaches the highest ranks that you wanted to achieve, either it just fails and you cannot do anything with this. But if you're going with a mobile free-to-play, it's really, I think personally, it's a better idea to go with a venture fund rather than with a publisher, because the main difference is that venture fund can give you resources to build all that you need inside your company. So you could be operational independent and go move on and do more games. But when you go with a publisher, if it's going to be bad, well, it's going to be bad. So with a venture fund or with a publisher, it's all the same. But if everything is going to be great, then there are problems. Because publisher doesn't want you to go and do the other game without him. So he does like stuff on competitions, he does like you can go with another game without me, and etc. Which is a form of control that they don't pay for. So this is like a kind of tricky stuff. And also, they're not really keen on giving you the expertise, giving you the ideas for how they do user acquisition, what are the CTRs, like how do they do it, how are they going to do the strategy, etc. So once again, it's just like the venture fund here saves you time, because if you're doing a great game and you do it with a publisher, let's say it would be like 2 to 3 years from the start, right? And you see great results, then you would eventually need to do the same as 2 or 3 years ago, but you didn't. You didn't have the user acquisition, you didn't have the marketing, you didn't have anything. But now maybe you have resources, but once again, you just lost time.
Any other question? No, okay. So, just a final question for you guys. Is there any new thing that I think is coming, because we had like a VR, AR, messenger games, a lot of new stuff coming every year. There's a new thing coming. So, is there anything that you think they should know or they should be paying attention to for in the next year or so?
我
Okay, so about VR, AR games, keep doing this. I mean, we, for example, super.com, we check the VR games and we try to find the moment when it is the right time to enter this market with this project, for example. And about something new, there is study. I can give you some tips and look at this project, look at this study, and try to at least think about in this.
This idea.
We are not big on VR and AR. Maybe better with AR than VR because we don't know the hardware side of things. But in terms of the new trend and what, right? So we have a kind of like a thesis around the convergence of film and games kind of moving together, and we invest in companies that build a tech to convert or transform live action film into interactive, so that way it can be a game, right? So there's a definition of games and film and all kind of blurry as we go, and then have you guys watched the film called Bandersnatch on Netflix? Yeah, so you can't really say it's a game, if you guys are really hardcore gamer, but from an entertainment perspective, right, from a playfulness perspective, there's that, right, there's the mechanics there. And so we want to see more of that, the two industry, the talents and experts kind of work together to make it happen. And then obviously making a live action film into games is pretty expensive. And then of course there's the motion capture type of production like Detroit and some others, but still expensive. So I'm looking, hopefully one day that would be something even more scalable, but that way you can really bring movies, IPs or dramas and all that in a meaningful way to the game products.
For AR, VR, if you have a passion to do this, please do. But from the money perspective, please wait. Because, it's kind of tough to monetize this right now. Maybe the only way that I know is doing B2B contracts. That it's understandable why they do it. It's like one-time entertainment. It's a good stuff, and for the public relations point of view, it's a good thing to have. But in terms of like doing a sustainable business, not like outsourcing for forever, it's not the good timing to go there right now. Speaking about the other platforms, there are HTML5 games. We, as a Moderador group, own like 3 biggest social networks in Russia. The representative of one of them are here, Max, and hey. So these guys are pushing the HTML5 games on their platforms. So it might be a good idea to talk to them and to see what they can offer. But speaking about other stuff, it's like case by case at a time. Oh, cloud gaming. Oh yeah, cloud gaming is fun. No. The problem with this is that if you're trying to run Assassin's Creed on server, it's so expensive. It's so expensive, and the internet penetration in 21st century is not enough for this. Like the ping is so high, the user experience is so bad, and if something happens, you lose your like gameplay and like it just doesn't work yet. I don't think that you have these problems with casual. I mean, if you have, I don't know, a slow computer, then usually casual games work fine with this. You don't need Stadia to run there. But if you want to run Assassin's Creed on a slow computer, then it would be a nightmare. So it might work with this, but maybe in 10 years, I don't know. With the HTML5, there are struggles, but these are technical struggles that actually the platform itself should figure out first.
So do you think like the sort of like AAA games or more core games can run on HTML5 in the future? Or it's not the plan? It's not really
I don't think that they can do it right now. But on like casual games, free-to-play games, the ones that require long potential, etc., they can do it.
Right. Okay, cool. Sorry.
No problem. No. So we have to finish now. Unfortunately, like enjoying it, but I thank you so much for being here. And guys, if you want fun, just talk to them.
Thank you.
So much. Thank you.